In the world of crime,
There are certain moments that transcend ordinary headlines. They become legends of criminal folklore, the kind of stories that leave people asking, how did they pull that off?
the Great Train Robbery of 1963, the Lufthansa
Heist in New York in 1978, and, in modern Britain, the audacious Securitas Depot Robbery of 2006.
This was no ordinary robbery. This was a carefully orchestrated heist involving fake police uniforms, high-tech surveillance, months of planning, and the abduction of a depot manager's family. By the time it was over, the gang had vanished with £53 million.
In banknotes, the largest.
Cash robbery in British history, but the story is about more than just money. It's about betrayal, fear, psychological manipulation, and the relentless pursuit of justice. It's about ordinary people caught up in extraordinary violence, and it's about the mysteries that remain, nearly 20 years later,
as more than £32 million is still missing.
This is the story of the Securitas Depot Robbery, the heist that shook Britain to its core. The Securitas Depot in Tunbridge, Kent,
Was supposed to be one of the most secure facilities in the country.
it wasn't a bank branch, open to customers.
It was a cash-handling fortress.
Where money from across the region was counted, sorted, and prepared for delivery to high street banks and ATMs. On any given night, the depot could hold hundreds of millions of pounds in banknotes. The building had reinforced concrete walls.
Multiple security doors, cameras, and armed response connections.
It wasn't the kind of place anyone thought could be robbed.
But to a gang of ambitious criminals, the depot wasn't an impossible fortress. It was an irresistible challenge.
The leader of this operation,
Many believe was Lee Murray of Flashit, 26-year-old mixed martial arts fighter from London.
Murray was already known in the tabloids for his street fights and nightclub brawls.
But beneath the bravado was a criminal mind, obsessed with hitting the big score.
He and his associates began watching the
Depot in 2005, they studied shift patterns.
vehicle movements, security routines, even down to the smallest details like when staff went on cigarette breaks. They noticed one key vulnerability. All of the depot's defenses depended on people.
If they could control the depot manager, they could control the building. On the evening of February 21, 2006, depot manager Colin Dixon finished his shift and began driving home.
It was around 6:30
PM when flashing blue lights appeared in his rearview mirror. At first, he thought nothing of it.
A police car pulling him over, probably a routine stop. He complied, pulling to the side of the road.
Two officers approached his car. They wore police uniforms, carried radios, and had a legitimate-looking patrol vehicle.
Everything about them screamed authority.
But these weren't real officers.
They were members of the gang.
In an instant, Dixon was handcuffed and bundled into their vehicle. Meanwhile, in another part of Kent, Dixon's wife and young son were also being arrested.
By other gang members disguised as police. The family was taken to a remote farm, where the horrifying truth was revealed. This wasn't an arrest, it was a kidnapping. The gang told Dixon in no uncertain terms he would help them gain access to the depot, or his family would be killed. With guns pointed at his wife and child, Dixon had no choice but to comply. That moment was the turning point. The robbers didn't just have a plan, they had leverage.
It was just after midnight when the convoy of vehicles pulled up to the Securitas Depot.
Dixon, visibly shaken, was forced to use his access codes and keys to get inside.
Security guards inside the depot were surprised to see the manager back so soon, but before they could react,
The gang stormed in, brandishing weapons and shouting commands.
the robbers wore balaclavas and carried guns. They ordered staff to lie face down on the ground, binding their hands with cable ties.
14 employees in total were rounded up. One by one, they were forced into the staff room, guarded at gunpoint.
Dixon was instructed to tell them to cooperate or else his family would die.
The atmosphere was tense, every second heavy with fear. Some staff silently prayed, others fought back tears. With the depot secured, the gang moved to the heart of the building, the cash cages. The scale of the money inside was staggering. Bundles of banknotes stacked floor to ceiling.
Enough to buy entire neighborhoods.
With military precision,
The robbers began loading the cash into lorries. They used bins, sacks, and even trolleys to move the bundles.
the operation took nearly 90 minutes.
By the time they were done,
The robbers had loaded
£53,116,760 into their vehicles. To this day, the sheer amount is hard to visualize. Imagine a stack of £20 notes as tall as a double-decker bus. That was the haul.
At around 2:15 a.m., the robbers fled, leaving the tied-up staff behind. None of the hostages were killed, but the psychological trauma they endured would last for years.
When police arrived, The scene was surreal. The staff were shaken but alive.
The depot nearly empty of cash, and Britain suddenly facing one of the biggest crimes in its history. The Kent police launched a massive investigation,
Bringing in detectives, forensic experts, and surveillance units.
roadblocks were set up across the county, helicopters patrolled the skies.
It was a manhunt unlike anything the region had seen in decades.
One of the first major breakthroughs came when police discovered a getaway van abandoned and torched in a rural field.
Inside, forensic teams recovered balaclavas, weapons, and DNA traces.
It was the first crack in the gang's plan.
Within days, arrests followed. Detectives linked the robbery to known criminals in South London.
Names surfaced: Paul Allen, Adrian Morris,
And others.
but the name that electrified the press was Lee Murray.
Murray, already notorious for his MMA fighting career, became the poster boy of the case. Tabloids splashed his face across front pages.
Cage fighter masterminds £53 million heist, screamed headlines.
Realizing he was a wanted man, Murray fled to Morocco, where he had dual nationality through his father. Morocco, crucially, had no extradition treaty with the UK.
In Rabat, he lived flamboyantly,
Buying luxury cars, partying, and investing in local businesses. But his freedom didn't last.
In June 2006, Moroccan police, working with Scotland Yard, arrested him. What followed was a dramatic legal battle.
Murray insisted he was innocent, claiming he had been set up. But the evidence against him, surveillance footage, testimony, and financial trails, was overwhelming.
In 2010, he was convicted in Morocco and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Later, his sentence was increased to 30 years. To this day, Murray remains behind bars in a Moroccan prison, where he is rumored to live in relative comfort, still proclaiming his innocence.
Back in the UK, other members of the gang faced trial.
The proceedings revealed the meticulous planning behind the heist,
How they had built fake police cars, purchased authentic-looking uniforms, and spent weeks surveilling the depot. Witnesses described the terror of being tied up.
threatened, and told their families would be killed.
In the end, several gang members were convicted and handed long sentences.
Paul Allen,
18 years.
Adrian Morris, 15 years.
Others received sentences ranging from 10 to 30 years.
But the trials didn't answer the biggest question. Where was the missing money? Police recovered only about
£21 million of the stolen £53 million. The rest, more than £32 million, has never been found.
rumors abound. Some believe it was smuggled abroad,
Laundered through businesses in Spain and Morocco. Others suggest it was hidden in the UK, buried in fields or concealed in storage units.
There are even whispers that some of the money was lost in investments.
Gambled away, or stolen by other criminals who preyed on the robbers themselves.
The truth may never be known.
What's certain is that somewhere, someone knows where a fortune in banknotes is hidden.
The Securitas Depot Robbery remains the largest cash heist in British history. It exposed vulnerabilities in private security, shook public confidence, and sparked debates about how money should be stored and transported. For the victims, the staff who lived through that night, the scars remain.
Many suffered PTSD, nightmares, and an enduring fear of violence.
Colin Dixon, the manager whose family was kidnapped,
Lived for years under the shadow of suspicion.
even though police cleared him of any wrongdoing.
As for the gang,
Their dream of a lifetime of wealth ended in prison sentences and disgrace. The money that was supposed to buy freedom and power instead became a curse.
and for Britain, the robbery became part of its criminal folklore.
Joining the Great Train Robbery as one of the most daring crimes ever attempted.
So, nearly 20 years on, we are left with lingering questions. Where is the missing £32 million? Who among the robbers might still be free, enjoying their share in silence?
And could the money ever resurface, or has it vanished forever into the underworld? What we do know is this: the Securitas Depot robbery was a heist of staggering ambition, ruthless execution, and lasting consequences. It was Britain's crime of the century. Thanks for watching Crimes Through Time.
If you enjoyed this deep dive,
Hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next documentary.
now let us know in the comments, if £32 million in cash suddenly reappeared,
What would you do with it? Until next time, stay curious, stay safe.